There is a chicken alive right now in a small flock in rural Missouri that was documented in American farm records before the Civil War. Its feathers run in a cuckoo pattern of slate and white, stacked so tight the bird looks like it was carved from storm cloud. It weighs just over 5 pounds and produces around 230 eggs per year on forage alone, in winter, without supplemental heat. And in 1974, there were exactly 4 breeding flocks of it left on the entire planet. Not 4,000, not 400, 4 flocks between that bird and permanent extinction. It didn't almost disappear because it failed. It almost disappeared because it worked too well to be worth saving by an industry that profits from things that don't work on their own. That bird is the Dominique, America's oldest breed. And what happened to it is not a story about neglect. It is a story about a system that looked at something self-sufficient, calculated what it would earn from it, and got a number it didn't like. The industrial egg and poultry complex in this country generates over $45 billion annually. That number does not exist by accident. It exists because every link in that chain, the feed, the medication, the bedding, the replacement stock, the supplements, requires you to come back next month. A bird that forages, self-regulates, winters without heat, and breeds true without a hatchery catalog is not a customer. It is the end of a customer relationship. So the industry did not advertise it, did not study it, did not include it in commercial breed registries for 3 decades. They didn't have to ban it, they just stopped teaching it. Stopped putting it in the extension service pamphlets, stopped naming it at the farm supply counter. When something generates no recurring revenue, the system treats it like it doesn't exist, and eventually, it almost doesn't. The Dominique was not patented out of existence, it was silenced out of relevance. And you were left paying a feed bill designed to keep you dependent, while the answer to that bill was buried in someone's grandfather's barn. The documented record on this bird goes back to at least 1820, when it appeared in American poultry literature as the Dominiquer, a working farm bird descended from strains brought by early settlers. By 1849, it was the most widely kept chicken in the eastern United States. Then in 1945 came the Chicken of Tomorrow contest, sponsored by the A&P grocery chain in partnership with the USDA, which set out to deliberately engineer a bird optimized for industrial production, fast growth, broad breast, feed-to-weight efficiency above all else. That contest changed the trajectory of American poultry breeding permanently, and the commercial Cornish cross that emerged from it captured nearly all of the commercial market within 15 years. The 1942 Victory Flock program had already shifted public attention toward production metrics and away from heritage hardiness, framing the backyard flock as a wartime efficiency problem to be solved by management rather than by breed. And the 1949 Ohio Agricultural Experiment Station Deep Litter Research, which documented the extraordinary disease suppression and soil biology of properly managed heritage flock systems, was published, cited twice, and quietly shelved. The data was right there, gathering dust in university archives. While the industry was busy building a different infrastructure, one that required you to buy new chicks every cycle because the commercial hybrid doesn't breed true. That was not a side effect. That was the architecture. By 1974, the American Livestock Breeds Conservancy located for remaining Dominique flocks in the continental United States for families who had kept the bird not because they read about it in a magazine, but because their grandparents had told them to. The population had dropped so low that the genetic diversity of the entire breed was being held together by fewer animals than you'd find in a decent backyard flock today. This video is just the surface. I've collected everything the industrial poultry complex doesn't want you to know. All inside the backyard vault, complete guides covering the top 8 heritage breeds and their actual egg cost per dozen numbers, the deep litter system that eliminates bedding purchases for life, the forage blueprint that cuts your feed bill by 40%, the breed selection matrix for cold climates, and the no incubator hatching method that closes the loop on replacement stock entirely. Over 10 complete guides in one place. No fluff, straight to the point. The link is in the description, but stay here. We are just getting started. Now the Dominique itself, 5 to 7 pounds, hens on the lower end. Mature at 18 weeks on mixed forage compared to 24 to 26 weeks for heritage breeds that require grain-heavy supplementation to reach weight. The cuckoo feathering is not decorative, it is a survival adaptation, a pattern that reads as ambiguous to aerial predators, which has been documented in predation rate studies comparing patterned versus solid-feathered heritage flocks. The rose comb sits flat against the skull, which means frostbite loss in northern winters is effectively zero. You do not heat this bird. You do not medicate it prophylactically. You do not buy a new batch every spring because it breeds true, and it has bred true since before Lincoln was born. The industry buried it not because it was fragile, but because it required nothing from them. A bird that requires nothing from them cannot be monetized. If you've made it this far, you already know more about American poultry heritage than 99% of the people who consider themselves backyard farmers. That number should make you angry, not proud. The Java chicken was documented in American records as early as 1835, making it the second oldest American breed behind the Dominique, and one of the foundational genetics for both the Plymouth Rock and the Jersey Giant too. Birds, the industry spent decades promoting instead. The black Java hen runs 8 to 9.5 pounds at maturity and produces between 150 and 180 large brown eggs per year while maintaining body condition on moderate forage. The yolks from a pastured Java hen are not the pale yellow of a grocery store egg. They are the color of a persimmon in October. Thick and almost tacky, the kind of yolk that holds its dome when you crack it into a cast iron pan. The 2007 Mother Earth News pastured egg study confirmed what farmers had been saying for a century. Pastured heritage eggs carry 2/3 more vitamin A, twice the omega-3 fatty acids, 3 times the vitamin E, and 7 times the beta-carotene compared to commercial confinement eggs. The 2010 Penn State University study confirmed those findings independently. The industry's response was not to change its practices. It was to create a labeling category called cage-free that addresses none of the nutritional variables that study measured, and to market it at a premium. The Java was erased from commercial catalogs because you cannot patent a bird that has been in the public domain for 190 years. You cannot build a recurring revenue stream from a flock that replaces itself. Stay with me, because this next piece is the one that makes the whole system click. The Buckeye was developed in Warren, Ohio, 1896 by Nettie Metcalf, one of the only American breeds created entirely by a woman, and the only American breed designed with a pea-comb for cold weather hardiness as the primary criterion, not production metrics. The Buckeye is also the only American breed that actively hunts mice, not forages around them. Hunts them, and a mature Buckeye rooster will stalk, corner, and kill a mouse with the focused deliberateness of a terrier. The hens run 6.5 pounds, produce around 200 brown eggs annually on range, and maintain that output through their 3rd and 4th year, where commercial hybrids have been spent and processed since year 1. Cost per egg from a commercial high-line white layer hybrid in a managed backyard flock runs approximately 28 to 34 cents. When you account for replacement costs, while a self-replacing Buckeye flock on managed pasture runs 11 to 14 cents per egg by year 3, when the restocking cost disappears entirely. The industry buried the Buckeye because it was designed to survive without the industry. Nettie Metcalf built a closed-loop system in 1896, and the infrastructure of the 20th century spent the next 100 years pretending it wasn't there. The reason these 3 breeds share the same burial story is not coincidence. Not market evolution, not consumer preference, driving commercial consolidation. The 1945 Chicken of Tomorrow contest was funded by a grocery chain that needed a product consistent enough to be centrally processed, nationally distributed, and repurchased on a cycle. The birds that survived that contest were the birds compatible with that supply chain. The birds that did not survive were the ones compatible with your supply chain, the one that runs through your yard, your compost pile, your kitchen scraps, your saved grain. That system generates no profit for anyone but you, which is exactly why you were never told it existed. The archive was always there in land-grant universities, in extension service files, in the American Livestock Breeds Conservancy database, not destroyed, just made irrelevant by a curriculum that stopped teaching it. Your birthright as a farmer, the knowledge that kept American families self-sufficient for 200 years, was not taken by force. It was slowly, methodically starved of oxygen until it almost went silent. For flocks, for families in 1974 who didn't know they were holding the entire genetic legacy of America's oldest chicken breed. They just knew the bird worked, foraged hard, wintered tough, bred clean, and tasted like something real. That is exactly the kind of knowledge the system cannot survive. The Dominique population today sits at around 2,500 registered breeding birds. That is a recovery. It is not a victory. A breed that was once in every county in the eastern United States now exists in numbers that would not fill a school gymnasium, but it exists. The knowledge exists, the genetics exist, and now you have them. What you do with that is not a hobby decision. It is a political one. Every flock you build on a heritage foundation is a transaction the industrial complex does not get. Every chick hatched from a self-replacing breed is a restocking fee they will never invoice you for. Share this with someone who is still paying that invoice without knowing it, not because it's a good video, but because they were robbed. And the link is still in the description. The next vault opens a chapter the seed industry spent 30 years trying to close. The archive never burned. Share,